Saturday marks the 43rd anniversary of Land Day, when 6 Palestinians were killed in 1976 demonstrating against Israeli land confiscations. Since then, many protests have been held against the Israeli blockade of Gaza and for the right of Palestinians to return home. I'm Andrew Hopkins, and I'm talking to the Palestinian Ambassador to Turkey, Faed Mustafa, one-on-one. A number of groups in Gaza have called for more demonstrations to mark Land Day. Do you support those calls?
Land Day is a national occasion for all Palestinians, whether they are in Gaza, the West Bank, or inside the 1948 territories. Land Day reminds the Palestinian people of the massacre committed in 1976, when Israeli forces tried to take control of Palestinian territories inside the Green Line. When our Palestinian people protest peacefully against Israeli actions, they are voicing a legitimate claim. They have the right to demonstrate and speak out when Israel tries to take control of Palestinian land. We are monitoring Israel. The Israelis never stop taking new territories to build illegal settlements. We are exercising our rights by protesting. We call on the international community to stop Israeli aggression in occupied Palestine.
Since the last demonstrations, more than 200 people have been killed by Israeli security forces. Aren't you worried that more people will be killed?
This question should be directed at the Israelis. We have suffered many losses. We are exercising our legitimate right. The goal of these peaceful protests is to lift the blockade imposed on Gaza, to change life in the Gaza Strip. This blockade has been in place for 12 years. Israel has practiced the harshest forms of penalty, using live ammunition on peaceful civilian protesters. Unfortunately, the lack of accountability has encouraged Israel to commit more crimes. The same tactics used against our people in Gaza who are protesting in the Great March of Return are practiced against our people in the West Bank. This is the blood tax we pay for our country's freedom and to restore our national rights.
The Israeli elections are coming up now, and there's been a fair bit of anti-Palestinian rhetoric. Aren't you worried that these demonstrations can become inflamed, become used as a political football?
Unfortunately, Israeli society has started to move towards right-wing extremism in recent years. There's no more fighting between the right and left in Israel. Now, the disputes are between the right-wing and the extremist right-wing elements. We wish the Israeli people would choose a government that will come up with a political settlement, because this conflict has to end. A justifiable settlement would be establishing an independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital.
The White House senior advisor, Jared Kushner, he's been in the Middle East in the last few weeks. Have you seen or heard anything that gives you any optimism that there could be a deal between Israel and the Palestinians?
Our relations with the U.S. administration have been frozen since 2017, when they recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and transferred the embassy. We are now in a state of open confrontation. We did not initiate this situation. In 2017, the U.S. administration decided to move the embassy, then targeted the United Nations Relief Agency and attempted to change the criteria for refugee numbers. There are 5.5 million Palestinian refugees. The U.S. wants to reduce them to 50,000. Only those who were alive during the Nakba in 1948. The U.S. administration took aggressive steps by closing the office of the Palestinian Liberation Organization and our embassy in Washington. They also shut down the local U.S. aid office and the U.S. consulate in Eastern Jerusalem, which functioned as the U.S. embassy in Palestine. All of those steps have significantly harmed our ties with the U.S. administration.